Let's begin.
All right, great. Well, welcome everybody. And this is a note for the record. This meeting is being held virtually via the WebEx platform and will be recorded and available to the public. I wanted to start off, I think you all saw we have a new member that has joined us, Mark Horton. And I've had the pleasure of being friends with Mark for lots and lots of years. Great guy. He is married to one of my good friends, Kendra Horton, and they have two beautiful young girls. And I know Mark is an avid runner, also cyclist in the area, and works for Town Bank, Town Bank Insurance. So, Mark, do you want to say hi or say anything to everybody?
Hi, thanks for having me. Thanks to Amy and Kim for getting me on the board. And it's good to see Carter on here, who actually, he and Kathy got me into cycling back in the summer of 1999. So it's good to be able to help the city and do something that I love. So thanks for having me.
Great.
Yeah, Mark dated my daughter, and I'm not going to hold that against him. So.
Thanks, Kathy.
All right, well, we're gonna move right on from there. Let's do a roll call, and if we could do a roll call first of the quorum members, the actual members of Bike and Trails, that would be great for the record. So I'm here, Amy Frosted.
Carter Sinclair present.
Walter Camp.
Sorry, Walter. Brian Hickman present.
Mark Horton.
I think that's it. That's 5, right? All right, great. And just a reminder that our volunteer hours are due prior to the last day of each month. And Mark, I don't know if you saw that, but if you could just make sure, put a note in your calendar or whatever to at the end of each month to make sure you send your volunteer hours through Bike and Trails to Trina, and she records them for us.
Okay.
All right, and moving on to agenda item number 2, approval of minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes, and do we have any motion to accept them?
I move to accept the minutes as distributed.
Second.
All right, thank you. And to move on to unfinished business, we have some great news. I'm not gonna steal Elaine's thunder here. I'm gonna let her update us on the active transportation plan that she's worked so hard on.
Well, thanks, Amy. And really, I think we've all worked hard on that. But yes, the good news is that on February 16th, so last month, the plan was adopted by our city council as the bikeways and trails component of the comprehensive plan for the city of Virginia Beach. So this has been quite a journey and quite an accomplishment, and it really did take all of us to achieve this. So we really should be proud of this document and celebrate what I consider the forward-thinking, best practice ideas, initiatives, plans, and specifications that are laid out within the plan. And that really should, be our guide for the next 5, 10 plus years. So we're in good standing now. Thank you, everybody, for all your hard work on that.
Great, well, thank you. We're going to move on to reports, and I know Hugh and Brian are on this call, and we're going to start with the Bike Month 2021 subcommittee. We had a great meeting at the JNA headquarters, and we all spoke about Bike Month and what we could and couldn't do for this year moving into 2021 in May. So we came up with some great things, and Hugh and Brian, do you want to update everybody, or do you want me to do it?
Amy, if you want to give the main stuff, I'll just do 1 or 2 tidbits at the end.
Okay, great. Well, the big one that has come to fruition in the last week is we have a ride with the mayor that's going to come back on May 21st at 9 a.m. We contacted the mayor's office and he obliged. We did find out he doesn't have a bike, so he'll be borrowing one of my bikes. But we're going to ride from Princess Anne Rec Center to City Hall and back. I contacted my good friend who works for the Sheriff's Department, Lois Thompson, and she has two escort vehicles that are going to escort us along the way. And she invited the city manager and the sheriff and the chief of police. And I know for sure the sheriff and the city manager are going to ride along as well. And we're hoping to hear back from the chief of police to see if he's going to join us. So great news. It'll be fun. And we have a planning meeting tomorrow with Parks and Rec to go over some more details there. So that is good news. And then some of the other things we're working on a calendar. We went back to that Google sheet that we shared with everybody. And I know I've had some great contacts with some local members, businesses that are doing different things for Bike Month, or, we may have kind of triggered them a little bit to get busy working on Bike Month and remind them that it is in May. So we've updated quite a few things on there. And again, we're going to work with a calendar with Parks and Rec, and all of our information is due April 2nd for that calendar to go out. So if anybody knows of anything else that is going on Bike Month, I think you should all have access to the Google Sheet. If you don't, let me know. I think I'm the owner of it, and I can send you that link if you want to add anything on there that needs to be included. What else am I forgetting? Q, do you want to add some more?
No, just some other things I've been working on. After we chatted about it last time, and Elaine had sent along the bike route that's Bird Neck and General Booth, I went ahead and took a trip around that, and then I sent out an email to Elaine. Well, I got a call back from the landscape folks where there was quite a bit of debris encroaching on a portion of the trail, as well as there's some busted up concrete that could hopefully be taken care of. And they responded immediately on the cleanup of the debris. And I wrote it again last week, and that had been taken care of. Obviously, the concrete's a little bit more of a challenge. And the gentleman who called me back said, well, that's not in the zone, but I'll let the guy whose zone it's in know if there's a problem, and they'll see what they can do. So knock on wood, we might get that trail in good shape in time for Bike Month and be able to push something forward on it. So I thought that was great news. That the city's focused on it. It's a wonderful little 6-mile trail, and it's easy and very few road crossings, so good trail. The other good news is I did get preliminary feedback on the bike donation program that I've been working on, and that is that there's a group called Bone Shaker Social Club that does a bike build at Christmas time for disadvantaged children. And I'm good friends with Kevin Will over at Boys and Girls Club. And so they're going to do a small bike build for the Boys and Girls Club in Virginia Beach sometime during the month. Get about 10 or 15 bikes and helmets for the children. So that's it.
That's great news. Walter?
Walter, you're muted.
So leading into Bike Month, we have Earth Day in April. And on the Clean Community Commission side, they are going to go ahead with the bike recycling program, looking for scrap and broken bikes to partner with 2 charities that rebuild them and donate those types of bikes to people who really need them, especially adults who lack transportation. So we're going to front end Bike Month with some PR from that end that is very bike oriented. And so look for that, and we'll push it out too.
Elaine?
Thank you. I can never find that virtual hand raising in time, but I'm not sure if everyone looks at that anyway. But yeah, so great news, Hugh and Walter. That's really exciting to add those 2 components to our May Bike Month I guess, year. This is going to be a really good year for May Bike Month, I think. And I was going to mention this later, but I thought maybe it'd be better just to bring this up now as a little update. As you know, per our prior meetings, I kind of given an overview of the RAMP project, which is the Resort Area Mobility Plan, which is a recommended spinoff project from the RACE Act, which was the update to the strategic plan down in that area, down at the resort area. And so that continues to progress. I know some of you have been involved in surveys and the meetings, and really appreciate that. But the steering committee and staff, I was participating in a meeting it's 2 weeks ago now, that as part of that, something that's kind of exciting, I think, with May Bike Month came out of that meeting. As part of their project, they're looking to implement a 3-block segment of Atlantic Avenue where a pilot project will be installed to test out the improvements in a temporary fashion to help determine the feasibility and support for permanent improvements. So it may likely include painting a bike lane green or constructing, spaces, at back of curb or front of curb to expand pedestrian and, again, active mobility. So I brought forth at the meeting that the timing of their installation does coincide with May Bike Month. They are hoping to implement this in May. And I did take the liberty of offering up that BTAC would likely be interested and willing to promote and participate in these installation efforts. And I did mention this to Amy and Hugh, that maybe we could get this added to the May Bike Month subcommittee, I guess, radar. And as information comes available, and if they do schedule that and it does continue to align, then I'll certainly relay that information. It might just be kind of fun to have some of the members down there painting a bike lane, or this is physically hands-on implementation, real-time on the ground, making that project a reality to see what sticks and what public can get behind and say, yeah, we want to keep this. And so that's kind of fun. So just keep that in mind as well. Thank you.
That sounds great. We'll get our hard hats out. Great. Well, is there anything else that I forgot with Bike Month, or anything else that we want to add for Bike Month? I think we've got quite a good agenda now covered for it. We're good? Okay. All right. Moving on to reports, the 2020 annual report to City Council. I know Walter is working hard on that for all of us. So Walter, do you want to report anything on that?
Basically, I got busy with other things, so it's not wrapped up, but we will be wrapped up over the next month. And Elaine will supply some great photos out there, and Amy will front end it with her letter. And we have a lot to report on from that past period. And of course, this year, we're already making the notes so that by the time it's time to report on 2021, I mean, we're a third of the way there. So it's in process.
That's great. Thank you for all the hard work on that. And then if you want to give us an update on the Bike Buddies.
I'm actually going to bounce that over to Elaine. The exciting news was that more of these have been sponsored, but Elaine has the actual build and construction data. So let me transition that over to her. The part I'll say is I'm excited this program is now doing what we hoped, like the memorial trees, like the memorial benches. It's becoming institutionalized as another way for people to memorialize things in our great city, instead of having to actively be sought out for development. So I'm excited. Elaine, what's going to be happening?
Yeah, so that is exciting. Thanks, Walter. So in update, concrete slabs are to be poured this spring at 11th Street and 33rd Street. There is room for 10 racks in each location, and 2 sets of 5. So 2 sets of 5 racks at 11th, 2 sets of 5 at 33rd. 5 racks have been sponsored at 11th Street and 1 so far at 33rd Street. So the 5 racks at 11th Street will be installed hopefully by Memorial Day, because that completes a set. So we kind of have to wait till we get like 5 sponsors so that we can install them in a set. We don't have one standalone orphan rack. Once we have sponsorship for 4 more racks at 33rd, we can move forward for installation there as well. So that wraps it up. I mean, please continue to let your colleagues know this wonderful program, as Walter mentioned, because there really are limited locations in the resort area and also Mount Trashmore. And just as the Bench Buddies program, and there are no more opportunities to sponsor benches at the boardwalk. So this is the way to memorialize if you want to, put your stamp out there in our resort area. So kind of get in while you can. I guess is the only way to say it. You're honoring your story, your loved one. Hugh did a great job, even with that whole marketing piece. I really appreciate that. It was really neat to know the story of your family and your father. You can advertise your business or celebrate life for the millions who visit our oceanfront and Mount Trashmore each year.
That's great. We need to move it on to Shore Drive now.
Let's get Shore Drive up to speed first, right? Improvements.
How to ride a bike safely on Shore Drive. Good. And then something else that is going on with Marshview Park. There's a Great American Cleanup, and I know, Walter, you brought us our attention to that. Do you want to report on
Sure.
the cleanup?
We had that great report last meeting about the mountain biking trail development in the park. And following on from that, I reached out to the Clean Community Commission, and they've agreed to locate this year's Great American Cleanup, which is like a Clean the Bay Day, only on land, at the park. Now, we are under COVID restrictions, so instead of hundreds or 1,000 people, they've set up work grids limited to 25 people to stay in compliance. But this is an opportunity to get into the park, to do some hands-on work to improve this area, both where the mountain bike trails will be coming and in some of the currently developed areas, the 1.5 mile walk through the center, the dog parks, and so on. If you are interested in participating in this, it's going to be Saturday, April 3rd. It'll be in the morning. We don't have the times exactly yet, but I suspect it'll be a gather at about 8:30 in the morning, and it'll be wrapped up by noon. If you would like to RSVP on the chat today, we can just save a bunch of emails and scrape that information right off. If there's someone else you want to tell about it to RSVP later, send that in to Elaine, and we'll gather them from there. Because it is COVID limited, not everybody's going to get a spot, but that's a great problem to have. The Eastern Virginia Mountain Bike Association, which has signed the MOU to maintain those trails when they're built, has first dibs to get in there as hands-on work. And part of that is to encourage their members to begin their stewardship activities in the park. But please don't be shy about signing up. We'll try to find a way to get you involved down there. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, Walter. Yeah, Marshview Park, and I don't know if Mark's up to date on Marshview Park, but it's a new mountain bike park that's down off Norfolk Avenue that's really great, and it's going to be good for us to all have. All right, and then I-64, I-264 VDOT interchange improvements. Walter, do you want to
Sure.
speed on that?
Well, Walter, give me 1 second. I'll share my screen so that you can show your slide.
So as a lead-in, we don't normally talk about interstate highway projects here at Bikeways and Trails, but I think maybe to everyone's surprise, there are some wonderful improvements occurring by VDOT at several very difficult areas in our biking network. And since some of them are already open, I wanted to bring that to the committee's attention. What Elaine has shown on the screen is a west to east depiction of all of the areas being touched by this 10-year project. And some of the ones I'd like to highlight of our interest, there is now a flyover, which is in the center of the map in red. It's a curve near the top, which is connecting Cleveland Street on the north side of 264 to Greenwich Road on the south side. It's right by Topgolf. I'm sure you've driven under it on the interstate this past year. Well, what's pretty cool about this is they've made full accommodation for pedestrians and bicyclists on this new flyover. And over the 12 miles east to west across our city, where I-264 really presents a barrier wall to those of us trying to go north and south, we've now gained another way to do so in an area that connects neighborhoods, certain employment centers. It's a neat addition. It's still a construction site at the moment, but I would encourage you, it's open to traffic one lane in each direction now, and they'll be wrapping it up this spring and summer. But if you are out over this way, take a ride over it. It's pretty neat new development. On the left side, the picture that Elaine is displaying is the view looking up from Greenwich Road to the north. Top Golf is the set of buildings on the right side of the screen. Greenwich Road itself, over to the right on this picture, has been closed to through traffic. Eventually, that will open up a project that Elaine will be investigating, the Greenwich Road Greenway, which will take part of the road right-of-way and turn it into a multi-use path, connecting this point a little bit further east of this point over to Witch Duck Road. In addition, we have sidewalks repaired for a full 1.5 miles between Newtown Road and Witch Duck. And if you'd ever been over there, this is an industrial type area where it was pretty raggedy. And so these VDOT dollars have done a massive improvement for walkability and rideability over there. In addition, under 264 at Witch Duck Road, there never was a place for pedestrians and bikes to pass north-south. There is now a north-south traffic separated pedestrian multi-use path. It's not open yet, it's still part of the construction, but that is linking to new sidewalk connections and a reconfigured interstate ramp that not only provides access in the first place, but it's safe access. I think everybody will be very impressed if you get over there and see what's been possible connecting Kempsville to the rest of the world north of the interstate. In addition, the sidewalks under 264, further to the west by Centara Lee Hospital, those have all been repaired as well. And then finally, just the interconnectivity with the future Virginia Beach Trail. There are multiple access points now from the stub of Greenwich Road over at Witch Duck Road for this to really be more of a loop and connector area instead of just a single route. So people who wish to transit east-west or north-south will have multiple options when this project is done. And so my hats are off to VDOT. If you look at the project plans, they actually reference our Bikeways and Trails plan from 2011 as having guided their development. So if you ever think all this planning stuff just sits up on a shelf, please believe otherwise. This massive effort that Elaine just led on the alternative transportation plan is exactly the kind of thing VDOT looks at and builds into their spec on these kind of projects. It really has decades-long value to have set those standards out there. So that's the report on what's happening. It's exciting, it's unfinished, but you can already get out there and see what's shaping up. That's all I have. Unless there are questions.
Yeah, Walter, sometimes I ride my bike to church and it's in Kempsville. And so coming down Virginia Beach Boulevard is an exciting part to go through. But then doing the crossover, coming underneath at Witch Duck Road has been an adventure while they're doing the construction. So that's very welcome news that that's going to happen, but it'll be even more exciting once the Virginia Beach Trail is put in place. So we have that major east-west connector without having to venture out on the boulevard.
Thank you, Carter. You're right on there. And the connection south that you're referencing to historic Kempsville as that develops is very exciting too. That's that green swaled part of the map that Elaine is displaying in the lower right section.
Yeah.
Instead of being a trail to nowhere, it begins to be a connector up to what Carter referenced, the long east-west stripe across the map, which is the Virginia Beach Trail right away.
Here.
That's it, Amy.
That's great. We didn't get a chance to go across it yesterday, but we passed all of that, and it's quite a project they've going on there. So that's exciting. Moving in the right direction. And speaking of that, there's some new legislative updates as well. Walter, do you want to talk about that, or Elaine?
Sure.
Is that okay?
It is really exciting. This year, we suddenly have a number of things that have either been hoped for or not even seen as possible that are now becoming enacted. So walking through the slide, on the upper left corner, the Bicycle Safety Act, House Bill 2262, has been sent to the governor for signature. And three elements of that, as of July, and once he signs it, it'll go into effect July 1st, that motorists on 2-lane or larger streets will need to change lanes in order to pass a bicyclist. On 1-lane streets, they have to leave 3 feet of clearance. That's a really big deal. Second, bicyclists are also permitted to ride 2 abreast now. Currently, that has not been permitted. It's been single file only. So this is a very different look at how traffic works with bicyclists. The third part, the safety stop, one of the largest causes of injuries and fatalities to bicyclists is when they're rear-ended at stop signs and stoplights. And the safety stop concept would allow bicyclists to proceed as if it was a yield at certain stoplights and stop signs. That did not make it into the final legislation, but as an accommodation, because it had a lot of votes, the legislature sent that to the state police with money for a study to determine whether this would be an effective accommodation or not. There are some pros and cons to it. So they're supposed to report back in the fall, and I would expect to see that provision back up at the legislature in the next session next year if they prove out that it could help injuries and fatality reduction. So very exciting. On the second bill, House Bill 1903, for the first time, localities in Virginia will have the option of lowering the speed limit below 25 miles an hour. That's currently the floor. This would be allowable in certain business or residential districts. They could take it down to 15 miles an hour if they wished. And the rationale is that last year there were 123 pedestrian fatalities in Virginia. And that represents 1 out of every 6 fatalities involving motor vehicles. Even though there were fewer crashes, there were more pedestrian deaths. It's really astonishing. Speed has been found to be the underlying common denominator. So lowering the speed in certain districts would potentially have the ability to reduce injuries and fatalities. It's been shown that the severity of an accident, this makes sense, is reduced when the speed of impact is reduced. If you're hit at 25 miles an hour, you're going to get a different outcome than if you're hit at 15.
No, quiet.
So that's the rationale behind it. Now, as far as Virginia Beach, whether planning department, traffic engineering, city council will see fit to actually exercise this authority remains to be seen. Part of our advisory role may be to pass along any suggestions of areas where this might be evaluated for implementation now that the authority exists. So it's another tool. Perhaps the most exciting thing of all, though, has been the state budget. As I reported last meeting, there was $5 million tucked away in the budget. I know everybody read it, the entire multi-thousand-page state budget, down in item 447 for multi-use long-distance trails. And I didn't say where they were going to go. It just was a placeholder with $5 million. What was shocking is when the House and the Senate passed varying versions of the state budget, in the conference committee, it blew up to $40 million. It was like everybody in the state suddenly realized it would be great to bring home money for a long distance trail in my part of the state. And you can see on the list that Elaine has put up there, you've got Loudoun County, you've got the Eastern Shore, you have Charlottesville, and then of course the new Fall Line Trail from Ashland down to Petersburg. Everybody wanted a piece of the pie. Well, it finally settled out at $10 million, which, believe me, I'm not disappointed at. $10 million in the state budget that wasn't there last year is suddenly there in a pot. Because they couldn't agree on where the money should go, they assigned a working group that has until October to set a prioritization process, a master planning process, and a needs assessment. And that's not just for this year, but that's an ongoing set of processes. So I believe that Virginia Beach has a real opportunity here, that we're not ready with the Virginia Beach Trail to ask for construction money. However, I think we're very much in line to look for money that would assist in the ongoing engineering and planning of what would be built. And so if we were able to advocate for the city's state advocacy office to petition that working group for an allocation out of the 10 million, maybe it's $100,000 or $150,000 that would allow Elaine and the team she would need to bring in to advance the project. I think that's something that we really ought to be considering advocating up. I know Elaine will report later on conversation with one of our state representatives' office, but these things can go in a row where there's seed money, then there's build money, all flowing together with participants from outside the city. So I'm excited by this, and I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have. Amy, back to you.
Thank you, Walter. That's good. If we could just get that $10 million, that would be great.
I'll get on it.
Okay. That's all we need for the trail, right? Our part of the trail.
That would be a start.
Well, good. Well, we're moving on to new business. And when we so we talked about meeting dates for 2021, and we skipped April and we went straight to May. And I'd like to propose that maybe we meet in April and skip the May date, May 18th date, so we can kind of finalize some of the bike month plans. And just wondering if we can agree to that date. I probably need a motion, right? Does anybody have a problem with that? Okay, April 20th. So we'll send everybody an invite for that date. All right, and then the new business, current Parks and Rec active transportation capital improvement projects. Elaine, can you speak to that for us, please?
Yes, and I apologize for not being muted earlier. And so you heard my dogs and me yelling at them. That's kind of like what goes on all day long. But anyway, welcome to my world. So yes, I will. This was on the, as you remember, the hard work that Brian in particular has put forth to create sort of a template for BTAC schedule on things that we'll cover various months. This month was to give a highlight of the Parks and Rec CIP projects. There are many that go on throughout the city, and a lot of them come out of the Public Works Department, actually, because active transportation is in sidewalks and shared use paths, any type of side path is often a piece of their projects nowadays. It was where they didn't used to be, as illustrated in that Greenwich Road project that Walter highlighted a few moments ago. So, but before we get into, I guess, the active approved funded CIPs, I wanted to just touch on the Virginia Beach Trail again, and really just to circle back on what's going on. And as Walter alluded to, a conversation that we were able to have with Congressional Rep Elaine Lurie's office. So this project does remain unfunded. So not to mislead anyone, and no, we do not have that $51+ million at this time. But the project, for those of you who are not familiar, is the Virginia Beach Trail is a 10-foot wide proposed paved asphalt shared use path within the city right-of-way, owned right-of-way, which is the former Norfolk Southern Railroad corridor. The corridor runs east and west. It is a total of 12 miles long, 10.5 miles remain to be built. The easternmost 1.5 miles is built, and we refer to that as the Norfolk Avenue Trail, and that goes from Bird Neck to Pacific. But generally, I would say that above all of our planning initiatives, I do receive the most inquiries about the Virginia Beach Trail. And in fact, within the last week alone, I responded to 2 separate emails from citizens asking when this trail will be constructed and is City Council funding it. So I regularly have to and get the opportunity really to engage with citizens and respond to their inquiries and let them know where we are in the process. And as I mentioned, at our February meeting, that Vice Chair Camp and I did enjoy the opportunity to chat with Wavy TV 10 news anchor Katie Collette to highlight the project. And as a result of that, the Office of Congressional Rep. Elaine Luria reached out in support of the project. And just last week, Parks and Rec staff, which include Director Michael Kirschman, Administrator Chad Morris, and myself, as well as I invited Public Works Grants Administrator Katie Shannon to attend a meeting as well. And we met with Karen Thomas out of Luria's office, and we had a great discussion about the project. And as I said, at this time, we are still in need of funding. And in order to go after some of the state and federal grant programs out there, we need to be able to commit to providing a 20 to 30% local match. The more, the better, as far as increasing our odds for award. If the city is able to budget that amount, then we can apply for grants and have a chance at multiplying our local funds. For example, our attempt at the 2019 US DOT build grant application, at that time we had $2.4 million budgeted for a local match, and that meant that we were able to apply for $12 million worth of a trail segment for construction. So we're always looking for dollars and ways to multiply that so that we can just leave no stone unturned and try to find ways to fund Virginia Beach Trail, even if it's a small segment. Okay, so moving on to adopted, approved, and funded projects. Thalia Creek Greenway Phase 3. Again, as many of you may know, the Phase 1 and 2 are constructed. Over here on the illustration to the right, this it's a little bit small. If you can see on your screens here, this Phase 1 is complete. That's behind City View Apartments. Phase 2 was just completed a year ago. Is that already more than a year ago? It was like November or December 2019, so just over a year ago. And Phase 3 over here is predominantly elevated boardwalk. The orange indicates raised walkway, elevated boardwalk, and the yellow is at grade asphalt trail. And that is currently under design. It's slow moving project. There's a lot of elements. It's a $3.4 million project. And the bullet points on the left of the slide show you generally the timeline. So if all things go as planned, construction, hopefully, of the project will begin and then end by February 2023. And the photograph on the bottom left is the completed Phase 2. 1 and 2 are complete. That's a Phase 2 photograph. So it goes through the wetlands there, and it's really neat. You can see town center in the background, so you feel like you're in this piece of nature that sort of connects and loops. And also, just to put you in context, again, this graphic to the right, this line up here is the Virginia Beach Trail, the proposed Virginia Beach Trail. That's that Norfolk Southern corridor. So once Thalia Creek Greenway Phase 3 is constructed, we now will have this loop, or you can come down Constitution, loop through the Greenway, up this little piece of Independence, and then when we have Virginia Beach Trail, you can hop on there. So we'll just have this little, at least a mini loop when that piece is constructed. But obviously, you'll be able to go east and west to the city limit line and the ocean front upon complete construction of the Virginia Beach Trail. The next project is Foxfire. Foxfire Trail, the project cost estimate for this project is $1.1 million. And this is a great project, but it does have its challenges, including A&E. We refer to it as A&E, that's the design, the architecture and engineering component of a project. Stormwater requirements, pending land easement issues that are part of conversations concerning an adjacent property that determines exact location of where the trail will go. But basically, it's from Princess Anne Road, North Landing Road, right there at the the bottom, the southeastern edge of the municipal center. Then it will go straight through. It's an old right-of-way corridor and it'll terminate at Foxfire Park in the Foxfire neighborhood. So for those of you who are familiar, that's just south. You can get there off of Seaboard Road. It'll be just past where the new Princess Anne Middle School is being constructed, is that Foxfire neighborhood. So the project is for a proposed unpaved trail. There's not enough funding to pave it in asphalt, but it will be unpaved. And again, through a former railroad corridor that the city owns, it's city right away. And it will include a pedestrian bridge crossing wetlands. And let's see. Oh, meeting later this week. I'll be in a meeting with. I think Chad's in that meeting too. The project manager on that is Rob McPherson, who you met last month, and he gave an overview with Ethan Kaysen on the Marshu Park improvements. And so Rob McPherson, with other city staff, will be going over to review comments for the received 60% construction drawing set of plans, so that those can be modified accordingly and move on to 90% typically. All right, the next project, there are about 6 slides total, by the way, of these projects, just to give you a little time frame. Violet Bank Trail. Violet Bank Trail is also a TAP grant. The Violet Bank Trail is within the Violet Bank Drive right-of-way. And as you can see here, where on the red line is, the Violet Bank Drive terminates at the western edge of that red line, and it's just vacant right away all the way through to Selwood Drive. And it will include the construction of a sidewalk where well, okay, let me rephrase that. Violet Bank Drive actually terminates at, what is that name of that road? I don't even remember that one.
It's between Orkney and Kittery.
Orkney, thank you. I didn't know how to say that. I couldn't see it on the map was too small. So what we'll do is we're going to construct a sidewalk to continue a sidewalk where Kittery, from Kittery to Orkney Drive, and then from there it'll be shared use. I think I'm misspeaking. Okay, let me try that one more time. I swear, I know my projects. I just gotta get back in the game here. So from Kittery until where the roadway terminates, where that red line is, there is no sidewalk. So we're going to extend the sidewalk to that point, and then from where the red line is all the way through will be shared use path, asphalt shared use path. So that's the extent of that project. So this will be all paved. And the original project budget, this is one where it was not sufficient, and for a variety of reasons, new stormwater requirements, underestimated architectural engineering and construction cost estimates that can be attributed to how long this particular project has taken to go from concept to grant application to grant funded. So sometimes it's over many years in the original estimate, and then we finally get awarded that, and its costs go up. There's a lot of factors that have inflated cost this project. So but we have the funding for it, but this is why, we kind of just have to, there's only so much budget, we got to shift it around. So for example, that's one of the reasons why we don't have budget right at this moment in time for local match to apply for Virginia Beach Trail grants, is because that capital improvement pot, I'm having to use some of those funds to supplement the Violet Bank Trail. So the CIP funds coming from 4064, the project now is estimated to cost 1.35 to 1.5 million from the original just under $500,000. It was originally estimated at 462 million, thousand, and now could be 1.5 million. So, but that's exciting. I mean, it's a project that is progressing. And again, you can see the bullet points for the timeline on the bottom of the screen there. And we will keep you posted. Three Oaks Path. Three Oaks Path is another shared use path. It's a proposed asphalt shared use path that you can see the line in the red. This is over by Sherwood Lakes neighborhoods to the bottom of the screen there. Three Oaks neighborhoods to the west. Three Oaks Elementary to the northwest, and Red Mill, all that shopping complex, is just off the screen to the north. This project, the project budget from grant and local match is $537,206. And in a perfect world, the outline schedule on this slide details the project process and timeline, but keep in mind that weather and, you know, just Murphy's Law, things happen to schedules. And so we're never entirely sure, but we always project out. And this is all provided by our consultants who design and engineer the projects. But all of these projects are updated accordingly if there are any snags in schedule. But this one, it should be constructed, we're hoping, be completed by the end of next year. And the neat thing about this is it will provide connection to this little right here. That's going to be a pedestrian bridge. This is a swale, a wooded swale, which is part of the stormwater infrastructure. It incorporates the Sherwood Lakes, and it's a big system down there. So we have to navigate that swale, but that way we can connect the Three Oaks neighborhood and Sherwood Lakes, which has an abundance of existing shared use paths, and it's fantastic to ride around. And a lot of people do that all the time. It's very enjoyable. Anyway, so that's that project. So it'll sort of really increase the network when we get that going. Again, if I didn't mention that's another TAC grant. And that's how we multiply our dollars. You know, I can take whatever we can come up with, and then we apply for these grants, then hopefully we get like an 80% match. Greenwich Road is the next one on the docket. So we'll be submitting that grant application this fall. And then this project may look familiar to some of you. We've talked about Virginia Beach Trail, we've talked about Marshu, and then here's Bow Creek Stormwater Park. And I briefly, let's see, sorry. So I want to put this in here. This is technically a public works project, but in major collaboration with Parks and Rec, and Chad Morris is going to speak to this project. This is a specific park site, so it's not a linear greenway or active transportation route within a right-of-way like most of our CIPs are that are standalone that I'm the keeper of because they're active transportation routes. But this very much will this will be a game changer for the city and really be a really neat addition to our network and for park amenities. So I think, Chad, if you just want to take it over, I'll mute myself in case of the dogs.
Thanks, Elaine. Good afternoon, everyone. Just a quick update on the Bow Creek Stormwater Park. This ends up being a great partnership with Public Works and a good dual purpose solution with multiple benefits for everyone. As you know, the golf course is about 113 acres of property, which happens to be in the area that's seen a lot of recurrent flooding over the years. So this becomes a perfect property that's available to provide 340 acre feet of storage for that area to help with flood mitigation. So with that and working with Public Works, we're able to create what we're calling a stormwater park. So the area does become an area that can be flooded and hold water during flood events, but also is a very usable passive recreation amenity for the community, providing connectivity with the surrounding neighborhood, as well as providing some little bits of active recreation, but provide connectivity and multi-use trails and mountain biking trails as different ways to get more active community people into the park versus just having golfers. So it does provide a great new dynamic to the city of Virginia Beach, and specifically for Parks and Recreation and for those who are directly impacted by the flooding in that area, in the Princess Anne Windsor Woods and the Lakes neighborhoods. So with that, we just have a plan that is a 30% design now. It's partially funded through city CIP through Public Works, which is another benefit. You know, Public Works is paying for the entire project, about $86 million, which includes $15 million in Parks and Recreation amenities. Most notably is about 2.9 miles of shared use path, asphalt, 10-foot wide shared use path, as well as lots of area, you can't see it on this plan, but areas for mountain biking, And then off of those mountain biking trails are the opportunity for technical mountain biking, which really gets down into the lower line elevations and has some other obstacles and tricks and unique challenges for mountain bikers that can be used. So we're providing a wide variety along with other overlooks and places for seating and reflection and viewing, and then a kayak launch for kayaking and repurposing the clubhouse for small events that could be rented as well. And then the addition of volleyball courts, some pickleball courts, and a water themed playground to kind of educate the community on how water works and how you can control water, and kind of tell the story about this project and how it's so beneficial to work with nature and to try to find ways to control water and how water moves throughout the area. So that's just a very high level about the project. I'm putting together a few more details and slides about the project for upcoming presentations. So happy to talk about more details about the project and the whys and the partnership we have with Public Works. But you know, the real opportunity here as it relates to BTAC is that lots of connectivity that we're going to have on 113 acres of property that's going to really change the way we are able to offer up this type of asset within our park system throughout the city. And this is a long-term project, by the way, that it's going to be, construction starts in July of 2023, and it's a phase project in two to three phases, and the total completion time could be up to 8 to 10 years before it's finally all done. There's a lot of excavation to take place, lots of logistics to work out, and to be able to construct the project based on the funding that is available. So as future funding becomes let loose, the next phase can begin. But all that to say that the whole $86 million is obviously not in the bank right now, but they want to get started as soon as they can. So they're going to do it in chunks as the funding is available. So we're very excited about that project, and it's working well. We're at 30% design right now and gearing up for construction in July of 2023.
Thank you, Chad. I appreciate that. So that sums it up as far as our active projects that we've got, the irons in the fire right now for active transportation. But you can see that just within a couple years time, we really will be multiplying our network, which is really great. And all these things, again, were master planned years prior. And so, it just kind of keeps going by the time we come up with, the idea, the funding, the application, and, and then are able to begin and implement the project. I mean, obviously none of this is, if you're not a patient person, this is tough. It's a tough job to be. I'm not a patient person. That's probably one of the toughest parts about this role. Anyway, but it's all really good stuff, and it's really great to see that, I guess, moving forward, and happy to be able to share that with you. If you have any other questions about any of these projects, feel free to email me at any time. I can share more information or graphics or put you in touch with the project managers who can further explain the projects as well. Thank you.
Thanks for that update, Elaine. Chad, that was great. And I think it's good for us to see what's going on out there, and appreciate all that y'all do and the patience that it takes to do that. So thank you. And Elaine, I don't know, do you have any other comments for everybody?
I do. Sorry. Looking for that mute button again. Just a few points, and thanks for your patience all. I know we're covering a lot of material and trying to keep this within an appropriate amount of time to respect your time. But I did be remiss if I didn't mention, and unfortunately on a more somber note, that on February 26th, the Virginia pilot reported that we had a bicycle fatality 2 weeks after a 68-year-old gentleman was hit by a suspected drunk driver while attempting to cross Princess Anne Road at Comanche Road intersection, and it was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon on February the 9th. And all I can say is the accident is under investigation, police investigation. But also, I mean, folks, this is why we do what we do, to advocate for safe and separate facilities and to minimize risk for all, and to advance toward a Vision Zero community. And our thoughts go out to his family. just on a couple more things I did want to mention. I do have, well, let me share again. Sorry, hang on here. I do have one slide to share with you regarding the TSI, the TSI project, that, which is a transportation safety improvements CIP. I had asked for submissions, and I submitted 3, and one of the 3 did get approved. This is what our chair Amy Frostick submitted, was for this connection from Sandpine Road to the Cape Henry Trail. So this is east of the Lesnar Bridge, to put you in context there, and you can see the top right graphic shows how the Virginia Beach, wrong project. Cape Henry Trail is the green line, and then I've circled where this is. So it is public right of way, and it's all sand. There's a goat path. People are using this heavily, but there is no connection. So, and you can see right off to the north there is Lynn Haven Colony Park. So we'll just propose that we could put forth this project and see if we can get a little connection there. Unfortunately, it's not, you think these simple little things, no big deal, but nothing is inexpensive. So even this, because of the grades, they have to negotiate that. If we're going to do it, we want to make it ADA accessible. The grades and the stormwater requirements, and just what it's going to take. We'll obviously go through the process of notifying all the adjacent residents, et cetera. But it is on the list, and it did get approved. So I was very happy. Did it mute? I'm sorry. Was I muted the entire time, or it just muted me when I stopped sharing screen? Okay, I gotta get a handle on this stuff. Anyway, okay, so the last thing I wanted to share was that I did attend the 2021, virtually attend, National Bike Summit, which was hosted by the League of American Bicyclists, and that was February 28th through March the 3rd. And that really was a fantastic forum, and the highlight of the Zoom meeting, the whole multiple days worth of Zoom meetings, was really with the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, who was very supportive of alternative and active transportation. And so it was really exciting to listen in and actually be in a virtual room with him. And he reiterated that the goals of the US DOT are to, and I quote, I literally was writing this down as he was speaking, is not just to make roads bigger, wider, faster, meaner, but more complete. And he went on to say that concerning multimodal roadway design, that the more effective designs are, the less we have to lean on enforcement, and that design that reduces speed is the objective that he's focusing on. So it's really great to hear that, I guess, multimodal perspective, and to know that that's a priority coming from the top. That's all. I just wanted to share those highlights. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Elaine. And thank you for submitting my idea, because that helps me with my commute to work. That little area where I go through, and there's lots of routes, and it's sandy. So it would be nice to have a little paved area through there. Thank you. Well, good. Well, just some reminders for everybody. I think you all got a placeholder. We have been trying to keep these meetings to an hour, and in the past they've been closer to an hour and a half, and that was more when we were in person. So we went ahead and sent a placeholder. Trina sent a placeholder now for an hour and a half for these meetings. So if you could just plan on that. I don't know that we'll take that time, but just in case we do go over, just a warning for everybody. And then don't forget to submit your hours into Trina every month. Once again, just one more reminder for that. And then thank you to everybody. I think we have some great momentum going, and it's really exciting to see people that are very interested in cycling and making our city safer for bikes and pedestrians. And I think this is a great group, and I'm excited about what's ahead for all of us. So if there's nothing more, we'll get everybody updated on Bike Month, and look forward to seeing you in April.
Amy, I do have a question for Walter. These laws are going to be passed and enacted. How will they be enforced? Is my question, because that's going to be a tough one. We're out riding, and somebody comes by you too close. I mean, there's not going to be a police presence there, and how will the police actually be educated? Because when you read a lot of things, you know, through on the cycling websites, the police a lot of times will still basically side with the motorists. So, I mean, you probably can't answer that question, but I just didn't know if a discussion had been had over that.
You're correct. Obviously, I don't know, and nobody's planned to issue us deputy badges. But I do have a suggestion, and it's a really constructive suggestion. The ride with the mayor that Amy has organized, as she mentioned, is going to involve the chief of police, the city manager, the sheriff. And there's an opportunity here for us, private citizens, members of BTAC, and those who attend these meetings to actually see the officials who are charged with enforcing these laws on a bike, on the situation you're describing, and to talk with them that morning informally about this new law and other concerns and say, look, this tool's out there. There needs to be an education process so that officers understand it, bicyclists, and other members of the motoring community. I can't emphasize enough how important it is for us to be out there on this ride with the mayor and all the other leadership that are planning to be there. We don't get that opportunity to speak informally about these concerns very often. It's a real uphill lift, particularly during COVID. So that question you just asked me, I would suggest let's all ask every one of those officials there that morning when we're out there riding together. It's a plug, but it's also an answer that that's how things get done. Because I'm sure with all the new laws, they're not necessarily aware of this particular one. So let's go let them know that it's important.
Walter, do you think you could share that image or that slide that you had maybe with all of us? You know, I think that would be something maybe we could all share on our social media pages just to kind of get the word out that it is out there, because I don't know that many people know about it.
No, that I think the governor hasn't signed them yet. There's no reason to think he won't, but you know how things go. So how about I do this? Let me make sure that they're actually signed into law, which will be by the end of March, sometime in the next 2 weeks, and then we'll distribute that out to everybody. How's that?
That's perfect.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question. Thanks for having me today. This is my first time on this call. So when you distribute them, will you send them to everybody? Because I'll share everything. I'll put it everywhere I can. You tell me what to do and I'll do it. But I just want to make sure I get the information so that I can share it appropriately. Because like Carter said, it's tough out there. You guys know. So
we'll make sure. Yeah, we'll make sure you get it for sure. Thank you. Thanks for the interest in getting it out there. All right, great. Well, thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your Monday, and we'll see y'all soon.
Thanks all. Good to see you.
All right, any parting thoughts? Are we good?